You're listening to Disrobing the Mosh Pit, a dissection of music and popular culture, with your hosts, Pete and Tom.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Welcome to the third episode of Disrobing the Mosh Pit. I'm Tom.
And I'm Pete.
Yeah, how's it going, Pete? How was your week, all right?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it was great.
Up to much?
Well, yes and no, I suppose. The family and work.
Yeah.
That's about it, really.
I don't know if we've said before, but Pete's a pilot. So it's often you can find him behind the, up on the flight deck, just soaring above the clouds there.
Yes.
Playing a bit of what's the latest on the phone? Hitting some autopilot, sitting back,
hitting a lot of buttons. Yeah, that's my job.
Awesome.
Don't give away. We don't want to give away insider secrets. Though.
Trade secrets.
Yeah.
No, I did have one flight where I was lucky enough to sit actually up on the flight deck with Pete, and it was a very enjoyable experience.
That was right on COVID too.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a whole other story. Eh?
Yeah.
Basically, there was someone else on that flight with COVID coming back from Spain, and I think I just avoided being in the same cabin as them, amazingly, because Pete was flying, and so I was able to go and sit up the front there. That's a story for another day.
It was too. Yeah.
Sure, everyone's got these COVID-related stories that are just like interesting little twisty tales that came about from this whole nightmare scenario.
Do you reckon in like 5 years' time, people will look back and go, do you remember this? Like, this happened, and I was at Wellington Zoo at the same time as this guy that went 50 million places.
Well, I do. Everyone that I know has had this. Either one thing I do know about that first lockdown that we had here in New Zealand, which was 6 weeks of really staying home, everywhere closed up. One thing I do know was that either you had the most amazing, surreal time, or you had the most horrible experience ever. And I kind of know people that had both.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, in what way?
Well, I know someone who separated.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they separated
horrible.
just beforehand, and they were forced to stay in the house together.
Oh.
Yeah, and that was a bit of a nightmare scenario.
Yes,
I think
rather.
It didn't make things better, but in the case of my parents and maybe a few other people of that vintage who have been putting off retirement because they're just like, oh, hang on, I've been married to this person for so long, I don't actually know if I like them or not. It was reassuring because they were forced into this lockdown, and they actually were like, oh, I don't mind this person. And so that was actually, turns out the problem was me coming and visiting my parents.
It's just a reassessment of life.
Exactly. Once I was taken out of the picture, they realised that they actually quite liked each other. So there you have it.
How about you, Tom? What's been happening this week? Yeah.
Not a lot. We've heard about my bike accident, I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
time.
I think we discussed this last. How's the back healing up?
It's good, man. It's slowly healing. I won't be in any mosh pits soon, apart from, figuratively like this. But no, it's healing up pretty well. I'm just a little bit sore in the mornings, but it's the same for all old men like me. So there you go.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of grunting and groaning going on in my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get teased about it a lot, particularly at work, because you've been, where I work and the flight deck of the aeroplane that I fly. And there's a lot of groaning getting in and out of the seats. I don't feel like I'm hemming it up. Yeah. But comments do get passed, particularly from crew that are unloading the cargo bay or something like that, which is right behind the flight deck. They go, there's a lot of grunting going on there.
Yeah.
Like, yes, well, it wasn't really made for a man of my stature.
Yeah, exactly.
A full-figured male, as I like to call it.
Yeah. No, it's good, man. Once you hit 30, everything starts taking a little bit longer to heal.
Yes.
And all that sort of carry on.
My kids are like wolverines, though, eh? I find that, if they hurt themselves in any way, get a scrape or a cut or something like that, it's like it's healed up within minutes. Yeah. They're like, oh, and then there's a cut there, and then oh my God, it's gone. Like, how did that happen?
I mean, if only, eh?
I know. I don't remember that. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, today we're going to talk about something a little bit in a similar vein to what we've talked about before, going off on that same path of how music connects with everyone, as opposed to what we can talk about, which is stuff that's more, I suppose, esoteric when it comes to being a performing musician. But yep, like we're talking about before, Pete, it's good to talk about these things these ways that everyone connects with it.
So totally.
We've talked about music from 80s movies past, and we've talked in the last one about, taking risks with music that you might not otherwise listen to. And so today we wanted to talk a little bit about some of these songs from our past that we keep recurringly, we keep going back to and playing as a way of maybe, it's just nostalgia basically, isn't it?
When you hear a song that you maybe haven't heard for a long, long time, and it can take you straight back to that moment without sounding real cheesy. But the truth is that it really does. And you can sometimes, some songs, for me personally, it takes me straight back to exactly where I was when I was listening to it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I don't even know how that is a thing. How does that work?
Man, I've got no idea. I guess you get the same thing with films. We started talking about it, but I think like one thing that could be interesting to unpack today a little bit is songs that, again, there's no really good reason that they stick in your head. And I'm sure that, people our age, we talk about music these days, and a lot of the homogenous kind of sounding pop music, but I'm sure that in 20 years' time, you'll have people who are little kids these days saying, "Oh my God, yeah, that one song by someone like, who's someone modern, Pete? Can you tell me
someone modern?" I mean, I am so out of touch.
I think we're actually pretty in touch, to be honest.
Well, you know what I think happens, and I think I always think that, particularly with males, as we get older, our dress sense doesn't change anymore. We're sort of, I can't remember where I've heard this from, but you sort of take the best era of your life in terms of dress sense and you go with it. Yeah. And I remember my dad being like very similar to that. The style does not change from a certain age onwards. Yeah. I don't know where I'm going with this.
No, I know where you're going with this, I think.
And I kind of feel like the music that you get a bit nostalgic about kind of in the same vein.
Totally, I totally get that. You know why? Because I used to have these pants there was a brand called 26 Red, and the pants were called Fat Bastards. And this was back in the day in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, when the whole Limp Bizkit kind of superstar and Korn, Adidas big tracksuit pants and baggy pants. And, you have the back of the pant legs are just like frayed and hideous. Your shoes are all torn up from skateboarding. But I had these jeans called these Fat Bastards, and they were just really, really baggy. And my wife gave me copious amounts of shit for liking them in the first place. And I just know that I'm just always quietly on the lookout for another pair. But there's no way I could pull
You're going
them
back there. You're going to go back there.
Yeah, imagine seeing a 38-year-old man walking around with ridiculously baggy jeans and superstars these days.
But that's the thing, right? Because I was thinking about this the other day about why your dress sense doesn't move on is because if I wore what a 21-year-old would wear now, I'd look ridiculous. I was really trying to look like I was 21. I remember when I was in my 20s and there were guys, in their 40s.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they would be trying to dress really on trend for the time. And you'd be like, your moment's gone. Your moment's gone, man. You need to give it up. Yeah, just dress age appropriate.
Oh yeah, age appropriate. That's the key word here. Yeah. But speaking of music, I guess there are these things that I keep going back to. Maybe age appropriate for me, because it's the same thing. Is the same thing apply here? Like if I listen to music that is modern pop music, do you think it's kind of got the same? Do you feel the same way about it?
You are not entitled to listen to new pop music?
Well, I don't know about entitled, but do I look like? Yeah, I don't know, because there's this theory that people have this period where they. Well, it's not much it's as much a theory as it is proven with most people that they go through this period of being open to musical styles and then they stop being more open to styles, and which is why we kind of keep going back to these old tracks. So it's not like you're not entitled to doing it, but I think people are just less open-minded about approaching this new music. Maybe, the last session we talked about other bands to, different artists to listen to that are outside of your comfort zone. Maybe the first step that everyone should try is actually listening to top 40 songs that are current today.
Do you think people just get a bit resentful when you start wearing it on your sleeve a bit too much?
Maybe.
Like if you drove down the middle of Emerson Street, like blasting something super modern, right? Or like that was really, I don't know, like Wilkinson or something. You're really on trend, and I guess with music, and you are going down Emerson Street and you're blasting it in the back of your Honda Prelude. Is that a bit? Is that a bit? People will like kind of turn their noses up at you, probably from both generations potentially.
Yeah,
like the younger and the older.
Yeah, I think you do you, but at the same time, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't. You know, it's an expression of self, and that's totally fine too, right? But
Well, on this particular topic, just talking through this, there is one track I suppose that springs to mind first for me when I think if we're talking specifically about songs which we feel nostalgic about with no real reason. Maybe they're kind of a little bit B-grade-y. Maybe they're not like the top. Maybe they weren't top 40, but they just kind of they snuck into our consciousness somehow. Some of these tracks. One thing that sticks out to me, but this was a huge hit actually. But I grew up with 4 sisters, and so I started listening to heavy stuff more when I was about 13. But prior to that, pretty much everything came through for girls,
right?
Including hand-me-down clothing, basically. So
still now,
yeah. If only I could fit it these days. Jeez, but there's but one song I remember hollering when I was really little, and these days it still has. It takes me straight back there. And that is that song by that Four Non Blondes, that classic hit.
Oh,
and I said, hey, yeah. Hey, I said, hey. Yeah, I don't know what it was about that song, but someone played it, I think, not that long ago in my presence, and I was just immediately taken back to you.
Is there a specific scene that you're transported to in your head?
Yeah. Back in our first house, I think just like walking down the hallway, just hollering it, just singing it really loudly, I think.
Wonder what it is about that has really sort of stuck with you, or like what's that? Why is it that it's stuck with you so long that when you listen to it now, you can like straight away you're transported back to that particular moment in your life?
I've got a little bit of a theory that I kind of feel like when the seasons change, your senses are kind of a little bit bombarded with new stuff, and they're opened a little bit more. Like I get kind of a flood of old memories come back to me when the seasons change. I don't know about you, but there's a feeling in the air when when spring starts or when autumn starts, or
autumn's a big one.
Yeah,
winter,
yeah.
The bleakness of winter.
Yeah, maybe when we that's coupled with, I mean, what's an oral perception, what we're listening to, it creates this sort of snapshot in time. What I'm saying is, I guess when the seasons are changing, perhaps we are more open and more perceptive, and like we're more engaged with our surroundings. Maybe if there's some music that's going on at the same time, there's this snapshot that happens, and that's just sort of filed away in your memory banks. And whenever one of those senses or one of those things like the image or the sound or the smell hits you again in later years, that exact snapshot is kind of like evoked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like
I guess
triggers,
I've sort of
markers and triggers.
Yeah. I guess I've sort of thought of that for a little while, had that sort of going on the back of my head, because I kind of get that when the seasons change. But yeah, that song, I remember thinking the whole time I was a teenager, just like being a little bit embarrassed about. I don't know why.
You don't need to be embarrassed.
I think it was because I was just the heavy
hormonal
stuff. And
you were hormonal.
I was hormonal.
You were very hormonal.
I was on the edge of tears the entire time. Growing hair in really weird places.
Couldn't explain it, could you? But Four Non Blondes, that explained it for you in that particular.
Well, you must have one or two doozies up your sleeve there.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was just trying to think what I do have. I remember I was really into, this is an intermediate band called Culture.
Culture. Nah.
They're like Australian guys, like the New Zealanders, but they lived in Australia, and they're kind of very. I think it was around the time because I must have been about Form 1, I guess, and they're sort of like they had a song called "Fly Girl." I don't know. You remember that song? Fly girl, fly girl. That one. That one.
I'm so gonna check it out though.
You should. Yeah. Don't deny yourself that. And there's another song like, "Baby, don't be shy, 'cause I really want to meet you." I love that song so much. I thrashed it. And mainly because I really wanted Zeal jeans.
Zeal, awesome.
Yeah, I really wanted Zeal overalls.
Okay.
Yeah, these guys wore Zeal overalls.
Awesome.
I just thought they were the coolest. I think it was like Zeal overalls and diggers, maybe, like the Caterpillar boots. Very cool. Yeah, I always wanted to do that.
I can picture it now.
Yeah, and it fully takes me back. When I hear that, all I can think of is being an intermediate.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically at intermediate, like walking out towards like the basketball paddy tennis courts at Taranaki Intermediate.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, it just triggers it every time.
Yeah, true. Kango in one hand, Pogs in your left hand, ready to do some battle.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like when you hear a song that really like hits you, like Culture.
Yeah.
I kind of like feel like it's something like inside you, kind of like drops to your stomach.
Yeah,
Do you ever get that feeling?
Yeah, I get
like
that.
It's sort of like it's weird. It's kind of like your esophagus has just fallen into your intestines or something.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? It's got some sort of really, really powerful effect, eh?
Really?
We sort of covered, we talked about that a bit with the movies, is how they can sort of tap into that, like subliminal advertising as well. But some of that stuff I've just never heard again. Like that song that Crash Test Dummy song, that like the chord sequence and the instrumentation in there and the drum sound even. Like I haven't heard stuff like that again.
Yeah.
And I think in that case, it's the tone of the thing that sort of brings it up for me as well.
Yeah.
It's a big one for me, that Crash Test Dummy song. This is kind of a one-hit wonder, eh?
A lot of those were though, like that Four Non Blonde song. Can you think of another song that they did?
No.
I'm not begging them, but like
No.
And like Culture. I mean, I know they've got two songs. Probably one of them was probably more of a hit than the other.
Yeah.
Hit in the loosest possible sense of the word, potentially. But
yeah,
in my mind, they were. And so I mean, a lot of them were. Maybe it has something to do with buying Kiss singles in that era.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah, and of course that doesn't exist now because it's all streaming. It goes straight through. You know, I was thinking about that because we recently got a record player, and so we got all these new a lot of vinyl, like jazz vinyl and that sort of stuff. And the first thing that struck me about it was, it's finished already after a side's been playing for about 20 minutes. Yeah, so what are these things? They're like a 45, it's like 40 minutes in total, right? And so it's been playing for 20 minutes on one side, and then it stops, and you're going, why did everything go quiet? And that's just something that's, fascinating to me, that young people won't have had that music stopping unless they actually stop it themselves.
We used to be way more invested in, I think you kind of would, I don't know, maybe. In our way, in our time, I felt like I was super invested in music. Like you'd save up and buy an album, and you'd be really stoked to get it, and you'd like study the sleeve. Like you get the sleeve out, and you're like, "Oh man, this is awesome! I haven't seen the inside of the sleeve," and yada yada yada. And you go through the whole thing, and then you put the tape on or the CD on, and you'd listen to it from start to finish. I always had a theory that bands always used to put their greatest hit at number 7. Like the track listing 7.
Yeah, okay.
Like the 7th or 8th song generally on most albums were like absolute killers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not just you that thinks like that, eh?
Really?
I'm pretty sure that I've heard that before. Van's putting it at number 7.
7? Why 7? Is it because you've had enough time to sort of like warm into the music, but you haven't got bored enough towards the end where you're not really listening to it? It's hit you in the sweet spot?
I guess totally, eh? Yeah, I think that you might like put a slower one just before it, right? And then, I'm trying
Actually, speaking of which, what do you think your first single was that you bought?
Oh, Killing in the Name of.
Rage?
Yeah, Rage Against the Machine.
Wow, that's cool. Do you still own it?
No. No. I had like a compilation, The Trip 4.
Oh, yeah.
And it had that song on it. I think one of my sisters had a tape, and then I just cranked it, and I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And it wasn't just the swearing in it as well. It wasn't just the fact that it felt rebellious. It was kind of, it felt just the energy of it, because
Yeah.
their band was so energetic. It was just like, oh my God, so infectious. And that was the first one that I got. And then I think pretty soon after that, I'm pretty sure I bought that album, The Fate of the Land by Prodigy.
Oh, yeah.
And that was one of the first albums that I bought too. But I was going to bring up another interesting one, nostalgic one, which is this one that goes bom 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 bom. You know the other one? You can tell me what it is?
I like to move it.
No, it's that. I said boom boom boom. Let me say way oh, girl, your booty is so fine. Which is actually like the most filthy lyrics. And if you listen to this band, the Out Here Brothers, and if you listen to the rest of their stuff, their lyrics are so disgusting, eh? I think that they were like a joke band.
But a guilty pleasure, though.
Totally a guilty pleasure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But that was big when we were in like intermediate.
You would say, oh, that's disgusting in front of like your parents. And they were like, go like, oh, I love this. This is raunchy and I like it.
Probably my parents would say, that's disgusting, and then be into it.
Your parents were like, this is interesting, Tom.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. If they found it and read the liner notes, oh, geez, I don't know what my mum would have said. But yeah, that's another one which is kind of like, why was that kind of? I guess maybe we can pin it down to that time of your life, right?
Totally, and then that's what I just written it down. Actually,
yeah,
I reckon it's the music that you feel real nostalgic about, and I'm not talking about like looking out to the sunset type nostalgic.
Yeah,
I'm talking about like your own life, your own personal journey, tend to be the sort of like moments in your life. And for me, and maybe it's just because I'm not elderly yet, but there are certainly, I can think of lots of songs in my childhood and my early teens.
Yeah.
And maybe up until like my 20s. And then after that, they stop becoming so emotive for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's for everyone, but certainly like probably the most emotive is through your teen years. You'll listen to a song now and it will just like, oh man, like really hits you with emotion. Well, it hits me with emotion.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because it's a moment of your life that you really sort of capture. Your memory is like really quite fresh. And
I guess it's like really formative, that time, hey? Because you're starting to become independent. You're starting to solidify your ideals. Sort of hopefully get to this kind of self-actualization. No, I can't remember what age you're supposed to actually properly hit there, maybe 25, but starting to experience a bit of freedom.
And what a search that was.
Yeah, what a search, especially somewhere small like Napier.
Oh man, I tell you, trying to like sort your own sense of identity when you're a teenager is a bit of a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, we've both got kids and it's kind of like, how do you prepare them for that kind of thing? The best thing I can say with my son, who's now 12, is like, you can tell me anything, I've been through it as well. And I can't really think of more stuff to sort of say to him.
It's a hard one though.
Yeah.
Because I reckon a lot of that sort of voyage of discovery, they kind of have to go through on your own because it is so formative. And, when you look back on your own sort of life, and I'm not getting like, well, soppy about it, but the truth is that you sort of like look at it and go, oh man, like I'm glad all those sorts of things kind of happened because it sort of like lead you to this particular point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the same case for everyone, but certainly in my particular case.
Well, I mean, that's another funny thing. When you have kids, of course, you sort of feel like you want to create these experiences for them as well. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think everyone does it, but it's kind of like trying to get your kid into something that you're into so they can experience the same good things that you experience. But the more the older I get and the older my kids get, the more I'm like, oh, man, I just have got absolutely no control with what they like.
No, man.
Because they'll just like whatever they like. And often it's what I don't like. And then I just have to remind myself that, oh, actually, that's exactly how I was with my parents.
I mean, did you really like love all the stuff that your parents loved?
I remember thinking I couldn't understand why they liked some of the stuff that they liked. I couldn't quite understand why my dad liked Neil Young.
Man, I have listened to Neil Young recently. I love the guy.
It's good, eh?
He's amazing.
Real good. Yeah, another band. Yeah, he's epic. And especially the album Harvest, because Dad used to thrash that. But another one that Dad used to crank all the time is The Band with Levon Helm, who's an amazing like drummer and singer. I think he's dead now. But I think he acted in a few movies. I think it was No Country for Old Men or something like that.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, but he's like, really, really like soulful kind of. Well, yeah, I mean, it was pretty serious material. It wasn't like the Bee Gees, it was like serious. Like
it's
like
not the sort of music that you'd go out and dance at the disco on Saturday night.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that kind of stuff. It was more like what you'd listen to on your way home from Nam.
Right.
I reckon, it was kind of, it told quite often told quite a tortured story.
Yeah.
I don't know why my dad was into that stuff. He wasn't into the sort of, what I'd call fun music. I don't know, stuff like crooners, like Frank Sinatra and stuff like that, or disco sort of stuff, or funky stuff. He seemed to be into quite serious folk kind of stuff, and just heaps of classical music, shitloads of classical music.
Yeah, but my parents are the same. Like, well, my dad certainly was. He very much into classical music. Queen is he got me into Queen.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Awesome.
I remember getting a tape in my stocking one Christmas.
Yeah.
Was the Queen's greatest hits.
Yeah,
loved it, thrashed it. In fact, that actual album is the one I can remember the most because we used to drive back and forth out to the beach to do work on the little house that we used to have out there, and I remember just having that thrashed on the stereo all the time. In fact, it's probably my greatest memory, the road out to Waimarama and having Queen play.
Yeah, my wife's the same. She had a Queen was an important part of her formative years, I think, as well. So she's massively into it. What about this then? Have you had what have you had luck with exposing, with some music you've exposed your kids to from your own past that they've actually liked? Is there anything that's happened?
I'm not. My kids are quite young. They're 5 and 1. But really, I think for them, it's more a case of music that they like to dance to.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Like, it's a real eclectic mix that gets played at home. Like, you'll put Justin Bieber on or, I don't know. I've been thrashing Led Zeppelin at home a little bit in the last week. Yeah. My boy loves it. He always comes and runs in with the guitar and goes, "Daddy, Daddy," like with the guitar because he just he loves this sort of stuff. He stands in front like bopping like with the ukulele.
Yeah,
it's really sweet. And I'm not entirely sure it's got anything to do with the cerebral nature of the music. It's just got more to do with I like the sound of it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's cute. The whole innocence.
Yeah, I guess when you start thinking about when you start listening to music and thinking about more than just that, I guess when you're I guess intermediate age, because it's interesting you say intermediate because I'm starting to see it now with my son. And one thing that was interesting is I've been trying to get him into heavy music for quite some time, but he doesn't like it. And I'm going like, what's not cool about it? And
I love that you're forcing your boy to listen to heavy music.
Absolutely, I have since he was a baby. Cannibal Corpse. He listens to a lot. Like, I mean, lately I've been thrashing him. I just have to put it in the car whenever I'm alone with him and he can't escape. Like, so in the car, if we're driving somewhere, yeah, totally. I'm like, all right, here we go. This is happening, and then I put on some heavy stuff. It'll be Meshuggah. It'll be lately Psychroptic.
But he could be off like listening to Montel Jordan in his room.
He could be. He's definitely into
or Dionne
sort
Warwick
of mellow kind of like Glass Animals kind of stuff. He's into those guys, and he is. But I'm still trying to. I won't give up hope. But something interesting did happen where he started. There's this girl in his class. He'll probably like murder me one day for saying this. But there was this girl in his class. And she is. This is funny already. He must have had a crush on her at some point, or just been. You know how sometimes when you're that age, you just sort of get a bit spellbound, and it's not enough. It's a crush. You're just like, this is an interesting. I don't know. Maybe that happens all through your life, really. But anyway, he was interested in this young girl, his age, but she wore headphones everywhere, and so she listened to music all the time. Turns out her dad is a bogan. I know we talked about not being able to say that, but her dad listens to heavy music. And when he said to her what he's listening to, she said, "I listen to Korn all day, every day."
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So we've got a girl who's like 11, slamming Life is Peachy, like constantly.
Got the life.
Yeah. But that's like, you know that movie 16 Candles?
Yeah, with Molly Ringwald.
Yeah. Her little brother is the same. She's got this little kid who's listening to Guns N' Roses in headphones like the entire time.
Yeah.
Or at least for a good section of that movie. I remember seeing that kid going, oh man, that kid's just listening to music nonstop. Anyway, that's a side story. So my son, he asked her what she liked and what she was listening to, and she said Korn. He's like, oh yeah, cool. So he comes home and all of a sudden he wants to put Korn on.
Yeah.
And so he's been listening to Korn. So he's got something to talk to her about.
Yeah.
So he can sort of go, oh yeah, that album's it's a good album, eh? And I guess like maybe intermediate age, it starts being more than just the feeling of it, but it's kind of like a new way to reach out to people.
But,
you know?
we sort of talked about like a hormonal kind of thing.
Ooh,
and we start like tapping into sort of your your hormones, and you sort of start realizing that you start like forming your own sort of emotion about stuff. And maybe that's why the music around the intermediate age potentially is so powerful.
Yeah.
Like, because you sort of like, you have that sort of like feeling. So Still of the Night was a classic for me. I had a real crush on this girl back then in Form 1. She would have been like the first like proper girlfriend. I think we went out for like 2 months or something. And
nice.
That was long term. And
that's like being married for 25 years.
Pretty much, at that age. We had lots of experiences together.
We grew old together, basically.
Oh yeah. But Boys to Men, Still of the Night.
Yeah.
For me, it's dancing with her at a social.
Oh, true.
When I was Form 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like that sort of like I know exactly how I felt then. You know, it's funny like thinking about it now, but it's just like, man, like Boys to Men, Still of the Night, oh man, so good right there.
Yeah, that R&B was pretty big back then, eh?
Well, I watched an interesting documentary on that on Netflix today.
On Boys to Men?
Telling Eve about it today.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it's not just about Boys to Men, but the first episode was about Boys to Men. And that was super interesting. Really, really interesting.
Awesome.
These guys are super talented.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. There's lots of good stuff on there, eh? I feel like we should just talk a little bit about some tasting notes. It's a tasting notes moment with regards to this particular drop. Some of you may have heard gulping noises while the talking has been happening. So we're taking it a little bit easy this time compared to last time. But tell us a little bit about what we're drinking here, Pete.
Well, I went to the market. Well, my wife and my family and I went to the market on Sunday, and a couple of gentlemen that are selling their own beer, and it's Iron Pot beer. And I've been quite interested to try out local brews, and we bought a bottle of their APA, and it's very nice actually.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's very, very nice.
Yeah,
it's a flagon, and I appreciate a flagon.
Yeah, it's a great thing being able to go and fill up your flagons at a place like that, eh?
Mm. Well, what are you tasting, Tom? Have you got any?
It's pretty. I'm getting kind of a kiwi fruit kind of kick in there. Are you getting that?
I'm not entirely sure.
It's one of those. If I was going to be, on the nose, I'm getting a bit of honey. I think that's just the usual kind of, the usual thing going on there. Well, it's one of those beers. It's when you open it, you get this whiff of weed.
Yeah,
when you open the beer,
right?
Yeah, I guess it is. I find that with Beck's as well.
Not that you know what weed smells like, Tom.
No, never touch the stuff.
Sure.
No. Yeah, but yeah, it's pretty much. I'm enjoying it. If you guys ever get the chance to head down to the Iron Pot Brewery, I guess we've got the APA batch number 603.
It's very specific. It's a very nice drop.
Yeah,
and definitely want to support local, and it's a very nice beer.
But it's a good idea, man. Bringing a local microbrewery into it.
I thought so. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so back to this.
Yes,
like I was saying before, I've been trying to get my kids into this stuff, and my daughter has been a bit more receptive for some reason with this kind of me introducing her to new kinds of music.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had some luck with her with more mellow stuff. The cinematic orchestra, she's been getting into that quite a lot.
Yep.
So I guess I've just been trying to maybe provide an environment where they can explore musically.
Are you hoping that your kids will use the music that you've introduced them to as a soundtrack to their lives?
Ooh.
Because I think people have kind of like you probably like make a mixtape of your own life. There'd be songs that you could like probably like put down and go, yeah, this is my life up until the age of 40, right?
Yeah.
And are you hoping that, you know, your influence, you can get on this mixtape, Tom?
Yeah. Yeah, geez, I don't know. Like it would be a nice thought, I guess, to think that that's a way of connecting with your kids.
You probably don't really have to try though.
No,
you're
right.
Honest.
Yeah.
The stuff that you play around the house will stick with them. I mean, I think
yeah.
what mum and dad used to play around the house, it sticks with me now. And for me, that's a nostalgic moment because it's what they liked. Because it's what they liked. I like it. I like it because, you know, it reminds me of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, like one big thing, because my mum was in kind of musical theatre a little bit when I was younger, and she was in this show. It was featuring the music of George Gershwin, and that music of his is really, really. I just remember what the musical was called, but anyway, anything by Gershwin, basically the main stuff. That is really emotive, and it brings back the smells of that theatre. Because I remember, like, she was going and rehearsing, and they'd be on stage doing this stuff, and I'd be just like munting around in the seat areas, just probably looking for coins. When I must have been about 3. I think, looking for cigarette butts and coins, probably. but any time that music from that musical comes up as well, I guess they must have drilled it while I was there, so it was constantly kind of repeated.
They would have if it was a rehearsal. Surely they would have played it over and over again.
5, 6, 7, 8.
No, let's go again. No, from the top.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Is there like what sort of? If you had to like put a marker on the era that's probably the most evocative for you, what do you reckon it would be?
And
I'm sure everyone has their own markers about what's the most
evocative. Late 80s, I think.
I'd be the same. I'm the same. Yeah. Late 80s, early 90s, probably the most.
And so this is when we're like 7 or 8.
Well, you were 7. I think I was 9 going on 10.
Yeah, so I guess right now we have 7-year-olds making memories with music.
Well, this is the thing. That's good. When you bring up about your kids, that's an amazing thing to watch, actually.
Yeah.
What they are like. Maybe they'll definitely be influenced a lot by their peers, right?
Yeah.
Because it's what everyone listens to or what their friends listen to. Because I think we discussed this in the last one. It's like how you sort of make a connection with people is like what you sort of listen to, musically wise.
Yeah. Well, you go. Sorry.
No, that was my entire point.
Well, I was just going to say that's what was encouraging about hearing about this girl in my son's class who has this music that I guess she's got headphones, and I guess other kids aren't interested in it, but she just sort of really loves it.
It's interesting that it's Korn.
I know.
Like not the modern equivalent.
Totally.
Yeah.
I guess that was thrashed at home.
Yeah, true.
And her dad was just like, I actually know who her dad is, and her dad's younger brother is a good friend of mine, and he's a really hard out metal drummer. So
right.
They all kind of like heavy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always found like metal dudes really intimidating when I was younger.
These guys aren't intimidating. not these ones. No, I lived with the drummer for quite a few years, and he's just like, he likes horror movies, pizza, and drumming.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
And metal, so it's quite
like most
funny.
people.
Yeah.
My wife watches horror movies. She loves. It's like that sort of like, you know, when you like have some sort of cut or like an itch or something, and you can't. It's a sore to scratch it, but you can't stop. Like there's something about it.
About horror movies?
Yeah. Like my wife definitely has that where she loves horror movies, but she just can't watch horror movies. You know, like it's something. I don't know what it is, but I have to be home when she's watching them.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think that'd be kind of a good another session, as we could talk about some of those ways of musically. How you can maybe a more sort of cerebral one where we talk about how you can create those feelings with music and horror movies, because that's really interesting how some people do that.
Hey, did you used to have and I'm sure that you would have had a music book in your music stand at home called a Pusky Dusky.
Nah.
Oh my God.
Nah.
Had Meg and the Dragon in it.
Oh, nah.
The Train for Morningtown. Oh, I feel let down.
Yeah.
You call yourself a musical family. My
Oh,
God.
no. Oh, sorry. I feel bad.
Yeah, it's just our family then.
Yeah, well, it's that same thing, I guess, where when you're sort of, you have to all play music as well. Not have to, but we kind of got all pushed into music lessons, I guess. There's all that sort of stuff too, that's sentimental. Those old pieces, like I guess like a basic thing will be chopsticks. You hear that everyone plays on the piano, and it's kind of like a.
What's that one that's like?
Memories.
Is
that not chopsticks?
I thought chopsticks is.
Oh yeah, that's chopsticks.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is that? Does anyone know what that song actually is? Because I'm sure it's actually a song.
Yeah, it's got to be. It sounds like it's like a top 40 song from the 50s.
Yeah, it's pretty much like there's a piano there, and there's like how you could do a duet with someone.
Yeah. Oh man, I got to do a cover of that track. That'd be awesome.
Oh, it'd be amazing.
Okay, so if we're gonna wrap this up, any final points? What do you reckon?
No, I think music's real powerful. Music's just powerful, but and it describes so many parts of your life. Yeah. Even now, I mean, I don't really know. Am I going to look back in 30 years and think about the songs I listen to now? As much as I would have
thought.
If I look back 30 years to when I was at intermediate, those songs are so like powerful.
Yeah.
Are they as powerful now? I haven't got as much raging hormones in my body anymore.
Yeah.
They're all falling away.
They're all falling away. Maybe that's maybe that has its own kind of set of things. Maybe music plays a part in that process as well for us. So I don't know. Hard to say.
How about you, man?
Well, I do feel like it's been a long time since I've heard anything that has the same kind of effect on me as that I keep sort of going back to. I mean, I hear stuff these days that I really love, but then I sort of thrash it for a little while, and then I don't end up really listening to it again.
It's kind of like when you eat, because I think like music and food are very similar in the way they sort of stimulate the senses, in my opinion.
Totally.
And like, if you smell something that reminds you of your childhood, like if you smell like, I don't know, something that's been cooking or something like that.
Yeah.
It awakens the same sort of emotion that music kind of does to you. Don't know where I was going with that. But
no, it's good.
You become hardened as you get older, I think, to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You're less receptive to it.
Less receptive. I think that's what you.
And it's like a meal. Like if you thrash the same meal for a month, it wouldn't have the same effect. Like even if it was super delicious the first day, by day 30, it's like this is really boring and I'm bored.
Yeah, look, I think that when we're in our early teens, everything's new, everything's fresh, and we're open to everything. And because we are open to everything in terms of all of our senses and emotions and that kind of stuff, things are a lot more impactful and they have like a lot more staying power. Maybe because our lives get so filled up with work and responsibilities and worries and stresses and stuff, where there's just, we're a bit more impenetrable when it comes to, really having that lasting effect with music. I don't know. It's just a thought, eh?
Yeah. And I suppose that's the joy of seeing your kids.
Yeah.
Like, because it's it's a voyage of discovery for them.
Totally.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, awesome, man. Oh, that's a nice way to finish up.
You like that?
Yeah, nice one, cool. Pete.
Well, thanks, Tom. That was awesome.
Thanks, Pete. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Tune in.
See you later.